Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio no pictures live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about how sporting and cultural events have been completely overrun by the activists, the globalist cultural social engineering activists. It's it's a sight to behold, and I'll then compare this sort of cultural activism in the West and compare it to other countries outside of the first world Western nations category or class. Now we've got some relatives that are coming to visit, and they want to stay or have asked if they can stay for some weeks. So we were talking about, we're thinking, well, we better look at what cultural event. I mean, Sydney's a big city, what cultural and other events are going to be on, and including things like concerts and so on, and sort of give them quite a list, a smorgasbord, if you will, to a buffet to pick from. So we got online and started to have a look, and I was quite shocked. Not that it was that all this sort of cultural propaganda was around or sporting propaganda. It was the extent of it that took me by surprise. I mean, they're really going hard on this, and what's particularly irritating is it's done with taxpayer money. So politicians, public servants, they're all signing off on this stuff without the consent of the people. So I find this deeply disturbing, and it's also purposeful and willful. They're willfully doing it. It's not like they're doing it because people want it or asking for it. This is deliberate, heavy-handed, totalitarian social engineering without the consent of the people. Now, I'll just have a go through a few things here. The museums, that just pretty much every exhibition in a museum is being redone, or if it's a special one-off type exhibition, it's all done with the idea of the evil white people, slavery, how bad white people were to non-white people, how bad men are to women. So it's complete social power type ideology that's all over this. Now, also, we're looking at the sporting events took me rather by surprise looking at, and I made just a few notes here and see if I can find this. But the sporting events thing was okay. Here's probably Sydney's or Australia's premier sort of sporting event venue and the website. Now, it's a sport traditionally that only men have done, but they've recently tried to force feed a women's team into the. Now, if you look at the women's game, it's no wonder they don't get anybody watching it. It looks like some poorly coordinated amateurs. Just pretending and playing at the game, so it's no surprise. But as people don't watch the game because it's no good, they're then depicted as fascist, Nazi, misogynists, patriarchy, and so that's the reason. It's not that it's a crap show or crap sporting event. It's because everyone's a misogynist, which of course is absurd. So and again, I find that off-putting. That they do this hopeless game of the women running around and falling over and looking very amateurish and clumsy and uncoordinated in the way they go about it, with a couple of exceptions, by the way. But generally, that's the standard of the game all round. And even the players that do look like the female players that are super fit and more capable, they're still way below the standard that the men are playing at. So what? People don't want to watch that. They're misogynist Nazis, excuse me. But that's always the go-to. Same as TV program that's loaded with all sorts of LGBT and race and gender hustling. if people don't want to watch it, it's because they're all misogynist Nazis or homophobes or something. Again, lies, all lies. So here's this. Now there's 45. This is on the front page of this website. This is from a couple of weeks ago now, I suppose. So it could have changed, but they've got 45 news items, sports news items on the website. Now, bear in mind that the men attract close to 100% of the revenues and the sporting attendance, the online viewing membership, club membership. It's all for the men's game, and the women's game is being 100% subsidised by the money that comes from the men's game. That's not mentioned. They hide that. But out of the 45 news items, 27 are for women, the women's game. Now, this garners something like 2% of the audience attendance and 2% of the revenues, yet they're getting 27 out of 45 headlines here. Now, there's one woman who's a lesbian, by the way. There's one woman who is got a very athletic build. She's above average height and obviously super fit and doing the hard yards in the gym, and well done to her. But she's still nowhere near the standard of the men's game. She's the one who's featured in all their advertising. This one woman, showing her she's doing running and jumping or something, and she looks pretty athletic, and that's their poster girl. But again, someone who's far below the standard of the men's game. Now, so 27 to 45 are mentioning women. The top three headlines, 1, 2, 3 headlines, only mention the women's game, not the men's game. Where the men's game is mentioned, and particularly if it's for junior, say the junior game, then they've all got women, the women referees or the women management or so on. So that there's maybe 6, I think it was, I counted, of the photos and the graphical depictions. Only 6 that was exclusively for the men's game. Everything else is diluted to some extent. Now, that's purposeful, willful propaganda. So how is it that a sporting game here, that attracts straight white men and is a very successful game in Australia, attracts a lot of viewers, a lot of money and sponsorships, that sort of thing. How is it that this sporting code has given themselves over so completely to the globalist race, gender, LGBTQ hustling propaganda? There's LGBTQ flags and propaganda all over the website and so on. This is not natural. There's nothing organic about it. This is forced. So now let me go and have a look at, say, to any other country in the world, Nigeria or any of the Middle East countries or China or Russia or go to any, Japan, there's none of that there, none of it. This is a uniquely Western phenomenon that's being forced on us by the globalist cabal without our consent. It's not happening anywhere else. They're not promoting LGBTQ in Nigeria or China or Russia or something like that. That's crazy. Nor are they promoting. They may mention the women's game, by the way, but there's no attempt to push it forward as they don't have the top 3 headlines on the websites pushing only the women's game, a game that no one's watching anyway. Again, they're trying to convert people rather than attract people. They're trying to shame people rather than convince people. And this is all. Now, the same goes for the cultural events. You look at this is in Sydney, you look at the events coming up in the various museums and the art galleries and, say, art house movie showings, things like that. The whole thing, it's the same. All these exhibitions and shows, almost without exception, are to do with blaming, shaming and humiliating and guilt-tripping white people, particularly white men. Even there's short. And I've noticed really there's been a spate of movies about or short documentaries about prominent black cultural icons. Miles Davis playing a musician, or Ella Fitzgerald, or Eartha Kitt, and the list goes on. Muhammad Ali, sporting, and so on and so forth. Jackie Robinson. And so these things. Now these are accomplished people, whether it be in sports or music. Miles Davis in the field of jazz, for example. But instead of celebrating their accomplishments in their field, music in this case, he was a naturally gifted guy, Miles Davis. Also, he busted his ass practicing, and that's why he was viewed as one of the premier musicians of his time. So I want to know about how hard he worked and how he got his first instrument. Which bands he worked for, who was coaching him, or how he learnt this, and how he mastered this or that technique, and because that would be interesting in its own right. He's an accomplished guy, for goodness sakes. But instead, all they talk about, and he overcame the evil fascist Nazi racism, shot of the Ku Klux Klan, shot of the White Hoods, shot of the Burning Cross, quick shot of Hitler. No, just stick to the. And so they turned it into a propaganda extravaganza, and this is the same for the cultural events coming up. So when we looked at for this relatives that claim they're going to visit. When we tried to find events that were apolitical, had no political message, they were just there for the quality of the information, the entertainment, and so on, we couldn't really find any. That's how bad it is. That's how bad it is that we were unable to find a single cultural or sporting event that hasn't been completely taken over by political messaging. I'm very, very sad. You've been a Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for listening.